What's going on, guys? I'm Pete, and this is Retro Game Attic. Nintendo is a video game company near and dear to many of us, and they have a ton of established franchises with games spanning over multiple video game generations, with new releases on the Nintendo Switch to this day. Off the top of my head, there's Mario, Legend of Zelda, Super Smash Bros., Animal Crossing, and so many more. But with every established franchise that's been around for so long, there are a fair amount of them that have not seen entries in many years. They might just be products of their time and don't appeal to modern audiences, or maybe their gameplay mechanics just don't translate well to the Nintendo Switch. At the end of the day though, Nintendo is a business and their main focus is profit, so it makes sense why some of their franchises are dormant or abandoned. There are plenty of Nintendo franchises though that I think have a ton of potential, so in no particular order, here are 5 Nintendo franchises that I think should make a comeback on the Nintendo Switch. First up is the Wave Race series. It began life as a top-down watercraft racer for the original Nintendo Game Boy. You take control of your racer and pilot your jet ski around a track. The game mainly featured a slalom mode, where you race through posts around a track, and a race mode where you must clear checkpoints around a track within the time limit. Multiplayer was also available via Game Boy link cable to other Game Boy consoles. A bit clunky of a solution, but that's how it was done back then. Wave Race received positive reviews at the time of launch and sold well enough to garner a Player's Choice medal. Wave Race was followed up by the release of Wave Race 64 on the Nintendo 64 in 1997. Much like the first game, you take control of your racer as you navigate your jet ski around buoys on a variety of courses. You were able to choose from a handful of racers with specific attributes, as well as different color schemes for your watercraft. The game also had a Yamaha jet ski branding, which fit in perfectly and didn't feel out of place. Multiple gameplay modes were offered: Championship, Time Trials, and Stunt Mode, as well as multiplayer, with Stunt Mode being my personal favorite. It was just so much fun to chill out, take in the scenery, and listen to the awesome tunes while trying to pull off tricks. The graphics, color, sound, and almost everything about this game is amazing, and it is my personal favorite in the series. Wave Race 64 received very positive views upon release. It sold very well and eventually surpassed 1 million copies sold, earning it a Player's Choice medal. The last game in the series is Wave Race Blue Storm for the Nintendo GameCube. It was released as a GameCube launch title in 2001 and features very similar gameplay to its predecessor. Championship, Time Trials, now called Time Attack, Stunt Mode, and multiplayer make a return, with a new self-explanatory free roam mode now offered as well. Several racers are also available, with 3 characters being from 1080 Snowboarding, another Nintendo franchise, which is a cool little touch. Blue Storm's visuals are a noticeable upgrade from Wave Race 64, and the gameplay is very much similar as well. For some reason though, Nintendo injected a lot of the early 2000s attitude into it, and for that, I don't think the game is as endearing as Wave Race 64. It's still a super solid game though. Blue Storm received pretty satisfactory reviews and sold well, not well enough to earn a Player's Choice label however. And that's where the series ends as of today. Wave Race 64 was re-released for the Wii and Wii U Virtual Consoles, and was most recently re-released on the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack in 2022, which is awesome. It was positively received, and I can totally see it garnering modern interest and a revival for the series. Nothing concrete about a new entry has been stated by Nintendo, but they did apply to renew the Wave Race trademark in 2016. And in 2018, Wave Race producer Shinya Takahashi hinted that the series may see a revival on the Nintendo Switch. Keep in mind that he could have just been referring to the 2022 Nintendo Switch Online re-release and not a new game. I think this series is so prime for a new entry, and here's some of my suggestions for a new game. I think they can keep it simple and build upon the formula they established with Wave Race 64. Bring back all of the racers from the previous games, as well as add a few new ones. Keep a selection of levels from both Wave Race 64 and Blue Storm, and add some new ones. Focus on that happy, carefree music and overall feel of Wave Race 64. Lose the Kawasaki branding to keep costs down, and hand it off to an established indie developer. Release it on the eShop at or around $29.99 max, and I think they'd have a home run. The next series, which is a personal favorite of mine, is Pilotwings. The first game in the series, Pilotwings, was a launch game for the Super Nintendo in North America in 1991. Pilotwings is a flight simulator with a twist. The core gameplay is focused on earning licenses through passing flight lessons in hang gliding, skydiving, light plane flight, and the Rocketbelt. You receive points and comments from your instructor following each event, with ramping difficulty as you progress through the different license challenges. Once you complete all license certification courses, the game switches gears and becomes a bit more serious. You now embark on a mission to rescue your instructors that are being held captive on an island. The overall look, feel, and music of this game is so top tier to me. Seriously, chef's kiss to most of the music here. It's that good, and I still listen to it today. The game's visuals are also bolstered by the trademark Super Nintendo Mode 7 7 effects that were mind-blowing back in 1991 and are still endearing today. There isn't a ton of content in the original Pilotwings, but I think there are enough positives about it where it does stand on its own and established a nice little legacy of games to follow. Pilotwings was overall positively received upon release and sold over 2 million copies by 1996, earning it enough fanfare to warrant a sequel. Pilotwings 64 was a launch title for the Nintendo 64 in 1996. It builds upon the original game with the inclusion of 6 selectable pilots, all with unique attributes, with the goal of completing flight events to obtain respective licenses. The events include autogyro, jetpack, hang gliding, skydiving, and a human cannonball. As expected with new hardware, the visuals get a nice upgrade, and 4 levels, now islands, are more diverse and are larger than the first game with more areas to explore. The music and sound design are also very solid, although I feel they're not as memorable as the original game. Regardless of what I think of Pilotwings 64, it received mostly glowing reviews at release and eventually sold over 1 million copies worldwide. So from here, the Pilotwings series remained dormant for almost 15 years. Continuing the tradition of Pilotwings being launch titles, Pilotwings Resort was a launch title for the Nintendo 3DS in 2011. The Pilotwings 64 characters are replaced with playable Miis, and the entire game takes place on Woohoo Island, previously featured on Wii Fit and in Wii Sports Resort. It makes sense to me since the whole Wii Mii aesthetic was still pretty big in 2011. The game's mission mode tasks the player with completing various events on the plane, Rocketbelt, and hang glider, with more advanced vehicles being unlocked as you progress. There is also a free flight mode, where you can openly explore Woohoo Island with any aircraft you have previously unlocked. While not groundbreaking, the Woohoo Island and Mii character visuals are nicely done and are comfortable to play in. The game controls well, and the music, while not memorable, is the quality you would expect from Nintendo. In addition, the 3D effect, while not for me, is pretty cool to try out for a few minutes. Reviews for Pilotwings Resort were mixed to positive, but the game did not set sales charts on fire, unfortunately. Now fast forward to today. Aside from appearances in the Super Smash Bros. Series, Pilotwings hasn't gotten much love recently, aside from the original Pilotwings and Pilotwings 64 being released on the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack. I think a new Pilotwings game can benefit from the current Nintendo Wii series aesthetic and be released as a sister game to Nintendo Switch Sports, much like how Pilotwings Resort was related to Wii Fit and Wii Sports Resort. A new Pilotwings game could set place in an expanded area surrounding the same locale as Nintendo Switch Sports, Square, and featured updated Sportsmates characters in lieu of Miis. Add in the tried and true Pilotwings aviation gameplay with license challenges and maybe a new vehicle or two. I think it would give the game a familiar yet modern feel, so as not to alienate old players, but still attract new ones. Probably another idea that won't work out, but I can dream. The next series I want to talk about is Tomodachi. The first game in the Tomodachi franchise is Tomodachi Collection. Released for the original Nintendo DS exclusively in Japan in 2009, Tomodachi Collection is a social simulation game consisting of Mii characters that you create. The player is tasked with first choosing the Mii's personality and appearance, then subsequently everyday tasks as well as giving them food and items to gain experience. Your Mii's inhabit an island and interact with one another to eventually form bonds and relationships. You unlock more areas of the island and different items as the game progresses. Tomodachi Collection sold well, with over 3.2 million copies sold, and it was successful enough to have a sequel. Tomodachi Life, released for the 3DS in 2014 in North America. It shares most of its formula with the original game and your user-designed Mii's inhabiting an island and forming bonds, relationships, friendships, etc. Mii's can eventually marry and have a child as well. The game is super goofy and doesn't take itself seriously at all. There are a variety of hilarious outfits and room decor you can offer your Mii's, and the Mii's can perform genuinely funny musical numbers as well. It was generally pretty positively received and sold over 6.5 million units worldwide. Tomodachi is a hard series to describe, and I'm probably not doing it any justice here, but trust me, if you give it a chance, it's a ton of fun. It's just such a wacky, funny, and overall charming game. It's such a simple concept, but it's done so well here. So here we are today, and it's been almost 10 years since Tomodachi has seen a release. There have been nods to the series in the Super Smash Bros. Series and WarioWare, and it has also influenced Miitomo, which is a defunct mobile game by Nintendo. Tomodachi also inspired Miitopia, which is an RPG starring Mii characters originally released for the 3DS, but most importantly to my argument, Miitopia was ported to the Nintendo Switch in 2021, so it does show that 3DS ports can be done and be successful. I had a ton of fun with Miitopia on the Nintendo Switch, and I think Tomodachi Life can be similarly ported as well. I seriously doubt that we'll receive a new Tomodachi game in the West, but I think a Tomodachi Life Nintendo Switch port is relatively low risk for it to work out for Nintendo. The next series is Clu Clu Land. Clu Clu Land is a puzzle game and was a launch game for the NES in North America in 1985. I didn't realize it until doing research for this video that Clu Clu Land actually has a storyline, because of course it does. The story begins with a sea urchin, the Unira, stealing all of the treasure of Clu Clu Land, and it's your job to recover it. You take control of a balloonfish named Bubbles and swim around a simple maze to uncover the stolen ingots. The ingots usually form some sort of shape like a star or a heart, so you can kind of predict where to swim around in a level. Posts are also scattered throughout for Bubbles to swing off of to change direction. Along the way there are black holes and other Unira for Bubbles to avoid. She can also attack the Unira with her sound wave, which stuns them, and she can push them into a wall, crushing them. So brutal. As levels progress, Bubbles must pass over the ingots an odd number of times, adding a fair amount of difficulty. But all in all, it's a pretty straightforward and fun little puzzle game. The game was also ported to the arcade, the Famicom Disk System, the Game Boy Advance in Japan, the Game Boy Advance e-reader, but Clu Clu Land essentially resides in the NES and Famicom era. There has been some love for Nintendo for this series throughout the years. It has appeared in the Super Smash Bros. Series, DK King of Swing, the WarioWare series, the original Animal Crossing, and the NES Remix series. Most recently though, Clu Clu Land was released for the Nintendo Switch eShop in 2018 as part of the Arcade Archive series, so clearly Nintendo does have some affinity for Clu Clu Land. I think Clu Clu Land can benefit from an entirely new entry released on the Nintendo Switch eShop. The game can be built around the split-screen online battles in the vein of Tetris 99 and Super Mario 35. Keep the simple one-panel level design of the original game with the side-by-side split-screen online battle mode. Overhaul the 8-bit aesthetic of the original game with more modern 3D character models. Something along the lines of how Dr. Mario Online RX visuals worked. They were updated but still retained the charm of the original. Have the ingots form shapes of other various Nintendo characters for some cool Easter eggs and fan service. This one is a total pipe dream, but I think it's a pretty cool idea. I'm going to lump these together, but NES Remix 1 and 2 were released on the Wii U eShop in 2013 and 2014 respectively, with the combination physical title NES Remix Pack released in 2014 in North America. The NES Remix games consist of various NES games with different challenges to complete. The challenges come in the form of short, time snippets of NES games, like defeating a certain number of enemies, speedrunning through a level, clearing out an area without dying, and so on. It's surprisingly addictive and a ton of fun. It's reminiscent of the WarioWare series, just that the challenges are a bit longer in length and wouldn't count as microgames like WarioWare. The remix mode of the games, as the name implies, retools certain elements of the original NES games or combination of games by incorporating different modern graphical elements not technologically possible on the original NES. This creates a whole new gameplay experience. Some of the remix challenges include playing a Donkey Kong stage as Link in lieu of Mario, with the challenge being that Link can't jump, or traversing quickly over disappearing platforms in Super Mario Bros. An online leaderboard system is also included, which fleshes out the game a little bit. The possibilities are endless, and everything is executed so well here. An enhanced port of the NES Remix Pack, titled Ultimate NES Remix, was released for the 3DS in 2014 with some added features. Reviews for the NES Remix games were mostly positive, and although I can't track down concrete sales numbers, I assume that the series sold well enough. And that brings us to today. We're approaching 10 years without a release in this series, and I think it's due for a new entry. The formula has already been established, and I feel like it's basically plug and play at this point. Release SNES Remix on the Nintendo Switch eShop with a selection of SNES games and new challenges and remixes similar to the original. Sure, new challenges will have to be thought up and programmed, but this seems like a great idea that would sell well. From there, release a Game Boy remix, N64 remix, and so on. Nintendo is sitting on a gold mine of old content that can be repurposed here. And those were 5 of my picks for Nintendo franchises that should make a comeback on the Nintendo Switch. Nintendo has recently released entries from older franchises on the Switch, like Advance Wars, Pokemon Snap, and Metroid Prime. These games might not be as obscure as the ones I mentioned, but there's always hope. So I'm going to try to do more of these kinds of videos, so please let me know in the comments what you think. There are plenty of old franchises out there that need some love. Thank you all so much for checking out Retro Game Attic. I seriously appreciate you all, and I will catch you on the next one. Later!